We had a friend named David who happened to be my best friend. It was great that he got along well. I asked my friend to be my best man at the wedding. My fiancée was really happy when she found out and thought it was a perfect choice. I had a feeling she was being a bit too excited, but since she was also friends with him, I didn't think much of it. Fast forward to the week before the wedding. My future bride seemed really excited and was on her phone a lot. I assumed she was just busy with wedding planning. She would stop and ask me about minor decisions, and I didn't mind as long as it made her happy. But now, knowing what I know, I feel like she might have made up things to keep me from suspecting she was communicating with another. My best man, to be precise. We had our bachelor parties on the same night, which I thought was cool. However, I was really disappointed when my best man called to say he couldn't make it to the party he'd planned for me. He told me his mother was unexpectedly in the hospital and he needed to be with her. You know, I really should have given him the benefit of the doubt. I should have given him the benefit of the doubt. I feel so bad now for being heartless and suspecting him anyway. That night, I had a bunch of friends with me. We're an active bunch, so before heading to an upscale lounge downtown, we played some basketball outside and then cleaned up nicely. I was feeling like a king, and I hoped my fiancée felt the same way. It's interesting because at that point we were already living together, but we decided to wait until after the wedding for closeness. Let me tell you, it was tougher than I expected. We took turns sleeping on the pull-out bed in the living room each night. When I got back home after the party, my fiancée was already asleep in our bed. She looked like an angel. She was an angel who had a great time. I tucked her in, but as I glanced around, I noticed a shiny gold cufflink on the floor by the bed. It caught my attention because my woman didn't have any cufflinks, and I only had one pair that looked different from the one I found. This got me thinking, could this mean another guy was in our bedroom? I was feeling pretty stressed out, rubbing my face and neck in frustration. My fiancée's phone buzzed, set to vibrate but audible on the nightstand. I took a peek at her messages and saw a conversation with my best man that stood out. The most recent text from him was sent 4 hours ago at 9 a.m. As I kept scrolling up, I realized she'd invited him to her bachelorette party, which is not how things usually go. But it got worse when I saw their earlier messages. She told him that tonight was going to be their night because the next day she would be with me. He asked if he could have her again sometime, and she kind of teased him, saying he might if he tempted her. It got worse when I saw their earlier messages. She told him that tonight was going to be their night because the next day she would be with me. He asked if he could have her again sometime. She kind of teased him, saying he might if he tempted her. There were also messages from months ago where they went from being just friends to getting flirty. He started asking about her body and she sent him pictures. They even made plans to hang out one day. When I thought she was at work, he messaged her asking if they should have done that. She replied saying she was sure about it and just won. In the space of an hour, I went from being happy about getting married to feeling heartbroken and wanting revenge. I took 6 screenshots of the worst messages they exchanged and planned to read them during the vows. It was going to be awful, just like what she did to me. I deleted all evidence of collecting those messages and then took some NyQuil to knock myself out the next morning. She'd already left. She'd left me a handwritten note saying she'd left early to get her hair and makeup done, but I knew what was really going on. Imagine you're all dressed up, excited for a great day, and then someone drops a bombshell, calling you a cheater in front of everyone. That's how I felt at that moment. I was feeling bitter. I didn't miss her or want her. I was so angry that I ended things with her. I couldn't believe how much I loved her while she was seeing someone else. I had spent so much time and effort trying to look good, smell nice, and style my hair. Part of me felt like it was all pointless, but I convinced myself it was worth it. I thought about telling my dad what I had planned to do, but I didn't want him to talk me out of it. I was a bit out of it, or maybe I should have warned others just then. My best friend texted me asking if I was heading to the venue. When I got there, he greeted me outside looking sharp. I had one thing on my mind: cufflinks. I thought they were a bit of a gamble, so I pretended to notice he was missing one. He was taken aback and I could see he felt embarrassed. He said he must have lost it. I asked to take a close look at the one he had, just in case I somehow found its match. His heart was pounding and he was sweating like crazy. It was so entertaining to see him like that, but I acted clueless about it all. So he showed me the cufflink, and guess what? It was an exact match to the one I had in my pocket. As soon as I looked at him, I had to keep myself from screaming or punching him. He could tell something was up and asked if I was all right. I snapped out of it and put on a fake smile, telling him that everything was fine because I was getting married today. Right then, I smacked him hard on the back, making him jump a bit. As we walked into the venue, I couldn't stop thinking that I never wanted a traditional wedding again. It all felt so pointless. Just as my almost wife walked down the aisle looking stunning as ever, I was flooded with memories of how we met and our time together. It was so unfair. I couldn't hold back my tears. People around me noticed that these weren't happy tears. I was devastated. I managed to keep it together until the celebrant asked if I wanted to read then I started reading the messages between James and my fiancée, which mentioned the date and time of each one. At first, people probably wondered what I was up to, but as they listened, they realized these were flirty messages, not something they'd be proud of. Things got pretty awkward as they started to fidget uncomfortably and look around, realizing that everyone in the building was staring at them. My bride asked what I was doing and what I was reading on my phone. When I got another text, she told me to stop, but then I read those inappropriate messages out loud. He was saying some explicit stuff about wanting to be with her again, and she was inviting him over because I had left the house. People started whispering and talking among themselves. My fiancé tried to take my phone from me. My best man suddenly walked out, followed by 5 of my groomsmen. I shouted that I had pictures and videos of the messages they had sent each other. I offered to share them with anyone interested. Some people got up and left. The celebrant had the nerve to ask if we were still going to get married, so I couldn't help but laugh loudly and sarcastically. My ex was now on her knees crying in her white dress at the altar. Her bridesmaids were clueless, just standing there. There was a bit of a frozen moment, where some of them might have known about her affair with him or seen them being all flirty. It was satisfying to see that no one rushed to console her. I was done with the whole drama by that point. My head was throbbing from it all. I stepped outside to check on my best man. It turned out that he was cornered by those 5 guys, who were yelling and screaming at him in disbelief. At that moment, I was just done with it all. My head was pounding, and I had enough of the whole mess. I got the revenge I wanted, and all I wanted to do now was take a nap. I told those guys to back off and let my best man go, saying that keeping him there wouldn't help anything. As they stepped back, my almost bride came running out of the venue, being chased by her bridesmaids, who were giving her a hard time and calling her. She called him terrible names and ran behind my best man's car for about 10 yards before he saw her in the mirror and stopped. She got in and they drove off. I turned around and saw a bunch of our wedding guests watching the whole scene. It was like they were in some grief counseling session, offering me hugs and words of advice. It was weird, but at least they were there for me. Well, those people weren't her friends anymore. They both lost the support and contact they used to have from our circle of family and friends. They ended up moving out of state. They lived together for a year, but their relationship didn't last. My ex then moved back in with her parents, who were disappointed and critical. It was a waste of time. After all this, she had the audacity to ask me out again. I just called her crazy. My best friend never reached out, but that's fine. I can't be friends with him anymore anyway. Luckily, my friends and family were there for me. They never let me give up hope or get too down. I haven't started dating again yet, but I have my eye on I think I'll ask her out. It's crazy to think that someone would be committed to only me, but my ex planted a seed of doubt in my mind, so now I take my time getting close to people. I ask them anything I want to know and share my past experiences with them so they understand where I'm coming from. Second story, my wife and I had been married for 10 years. Our anniversary party was approaching, and I couldn't believe how lucky I was to have found someone to be with for so long. We knew everything about each other and were best friends. We believed our zodiac signs were soulmates, which might be why our relationship was so strong. I noticed that her sign was associated with cheating, but I ignored that and trusted her for the past 10 years. We had a daughter 3 years into our marriage. My wife worked and we had the same career for all those years, and she was about to get her biggest raise right before our planned summer family vacation. It really felt like I had found true love, and I thought she would always be there for me. The night she got home after getting her raise, she seemed excited by the good news, but there was something in her expression that made me think she was worried about something else. I asked her about it. If she was struggling to believe her own success, she forced a laugh and said, "Yeah, but I could tell she wasn't convincing me." I sensed that something else was going on, but when I tried to ask, she brushed it off and said she was fine, just pleasantly surprised. Cheating didn't even cross my mind at that point. Then, before she went into our bedroom, she said something weird about her boss being incredible. She was lucky to have a boss who liked her a lot. It was a bit of an awkward moment. She seemed to realize she'd made a mistake when she said it like that. The next day was our anniversary party. She got a call from her boss and excused herself to take it in her office. I'd sneaked up to EES to listen in. I listened in on their conversation. At first, she thanked him again for the raise, but then things got a bit awkward. She whispered how glad she was to thank him properly, calling him amazing, and said she wanted to be with him again. Then she asked him about security cameras in his office, making sure they wouldn't be caught doing whatever they were doing or they'd be fired. It was all coming clear in my mind. I felt like bursting into the room and telling her I overheard everything. I went into the room and told her I'd heard everything, but instead I decided to make an announcement at our anniversary party. I needed to do something that would push me to confront her and go through with a divorce. I was pretty certain she'd just confessed out loud to sleeping with the boss in his office. I was frozen outside the door waiting for her to come out. She seemed really worried when she saw me standing there. We were so close to leaving, trying to act like everything was okay. She asked if I was ready, and we left. I felt like a zombie, and she was restless, lighting a cigarette because she gets that way when she's stressed out. During the drive, she tried asking again if I was okay. I knew she wanted to know if I heard her conversation. When we arrived at the venue, I turned to her and said, "Let's go celebrate our 10-year marriage." It was our 10-year anniversary. My wife. My voice sounded robotic, lacking any anger. She knew I overheard them, but she couldn't bring herself to talk to me about it. Inside, she sat there sweating, while I took my time to greet our friends and family calmly, pretending everything was fine. Our 7-year-old daughter was there too. My 7-year-old daughter was there too, as my parents had given us some time alone for our anniversary. Seeing all our loved ones and our daughter made my wife start itching and look really uncomfortable. Her face turned red and people started noticing her and saying she didn't look well. Even though she insisted she was fine, it was obvious to everyone that she was sweating like crazy. I saw this as my chance to speak up. I raised my voice and told everyone that my wife was having an affair with her boss. Everyone was shocked, and she ended up thankfully. Our family and friends were understanding and helped her by fanning her and using a cold cloth on her forehead. When she came to, she looked ashamed and couldn't say much. She finally managed to say she wanted to go home. I asked her which home she meant, and she broke down in tears and ran to the bathroom. I thanked everyone for coming, and then I took my daughter home with me. We went to bed, and my wife tried calling a few times. A couple of other people called too, but I was already asleep and didn't hear any of it. I was relieved to find out the truth and follow through with kicking her out later on. I learned that one of my wife's cousins let her stay at their house, but that wasn't all. I decided to email their company's HR department about what had happened. A week later, they got back to me, thanking me for the information and letting me know that they took appropriate action. My wife called me, and she started by calling me a low-down, lying sack of shit for ruining both her and her boss's careers that they had worked towards. I called her a low slime bag for ruining our marriage after I put in 10 hard years for her and our daughter. How could she do that and still expect our daughter to look up to her as a mother? She didn't reach out to me until visitation with our daughter started after the divorce. But you know what? I've already found a woman who has her own daughter and does things for me that my ex would never have even considered. It's bittersweet though, because I realize I wasted a lot of time trusting her. Third story, I guess I should call him my ex. I still think of him as my best friend, but it's hard to accept that our friendship is over. We spent so many years building a strong bond, and now it's all turned to dust. We've known each other since high school, about 15 years ago. He was like a brother to me, and even like a son to my parents. We practically lived at each other's houses back then, and our families were really close. We went on trips together and had so many memorable experiences. He was my best man at my wedding, and I was supposed to be his best man at his wedding too. We've been through a lot together, helping each other out in tough times and having deep conversations about life, love, and everything else. He was always there for me when I needed him, giving me solid advice and being a true friend. It's hard to put into words how much it hurts to lose him because he was such a significant part of my life. It's just as painful to lose him as it was to lose my wife. He was always there for me, and I considered him a true friend. I can't believe he betrayed me like this. I've been married to my wife for almost 5 years, but we've been together for 7. I still remember the day we first met. It was love at first sight. She was absolutely stunning with her piercing blue eyes and infectious laugh. I was surprised when I asked her out because I thought she was out of my league, but as we got to know each other I fell even more in love with her. She had this incredible passion for life and helping others. Her kindness and warmth toward everyone just made me love her even more. Being married to her was amazing. I always felt like our marriage was more than just good, it was great. I made sure not to let myself go as a husband. I took care of myself. I also made sure I ate well. I never forgot our anniversaries and special dates when she spoke to me. I listened and paid attention. I took a real interest in her life because she was important to me. But at the same time, I gave her space and didn't become too needy or clingy. I did my share of cleaning around the house. Our bed life seemed great too, as far as I could tell. I loved her and cared for her the way my husband should always show her how much she was appreciated. I even made an effort to keep dating her after we got married. I can honestly say I never took her for granted, but despite all of that, I still find myself wondering what went wrong. I've asked myself over and over if there was something else I could have done. Did I do too much? Did she think I was a pushover? Did she lose respect for me? It's hard to figure out what happened. I'm not saying our marriage was perfect. We did have arguments, but they were never serious. The trouble began when my best friend broke up with his girlfriend. He took it pretty hard and was feeling upset. I talked to him about it, but then my wife asked if I'd mind if she went out for a coffee with him to talk and give him a woman's perspective. I told her it was okay with me. After all, she and my best friend were also friends. We used to go on couples trips with him and his girlfriend, and they'd hung out together a lot because he was always around me at that time. I didn't think anything of it because their friendship seemed totally appropriate. I do remember him complimenting my wife's looks when we first started dating and got married, but it was nothing more than that. There were no inappropriate jokes or anything like that. My wife might have said he was good looking. I did look into it, but it didn't raise any red flags for me. Even now, when I think about it, I still don't see any signs that they could be more than friends. When my wife returned from the coffee meeting, she seemed a bit off. She was really angry with his ex and said he deserved better. I tried to console her, saying he's young and will heal with time, but she seemed she was really upset by that. She said he needed time and that any girl who ended up with him would be really lucky. She also said his ex was foolish for leaving him. I might not remember every detail of that conversation, but the main idea was that my wife was being vague and not giving many specifics. However, it didn't seem strange to me. Back then, I thought she was just being protective of my friend, which is how I would have acted too, since he's my buddy. After that night, my wife's behavior started to change. She wasn't doing anything overtly suspicious, but she became vague about her plans when she said she was going to see a friend or run an errand. She wouldn't give many details about her errand. I'm not a controlling person, and she'd never given me a reason to doubt her, so I didn't make a fuss about it at the time. It didn't seem strange to me. My friend was acting weird too, but I thought it was because of his recent breakup and feeling down. I would invite him I invited him to hang out, but he kept turning me down, which was unusual. He never gave a specific reason, he just said he was busy. I saw less and less of him, and when we did meet, he seemed different. It's hard to describe, but he didn't seem as comfortable as before. One day he messaged me asking to visit his house, saying he needed to talk. I went over there without suspecting anything. I knocked on the door and he answered. I tried to make some light conversation and jokes, but he completely ignored me. He then asked me to go into the living room, where I found my wife sitting on his couch. At that moment, I may have realized what was going on. I quickly realized what was going on, but a sense of dread started creeping over me as soon as I walked in. She started crying, and he wasted no time telling me that there was no easy way to say it. They were in love and wanted to be together. I was completely shocked and felt like I wasn't even present in that moment. When I finally had a chance to collect myself, they both tried to apologize, saying they still loved me and regretted what had happened. They insisted it was an emotional affair that just happened, not something they planned. They knew they were wrong, but their feelings for each other couldn't be ignored. They promised nothing. I don't know if there was any physical contact between them. I'm not sure if that's true or not, and I don't think it matters anymore. Since that day, I've received lots of texts from both of them, saying sorry. My wife has been asking if I'm okay and saying that she still cares for me. I've mostly stopped responding to those messages, and they've become less frequent. She decided to move out of our house, and I didn't ask where she was going. A friend of mine revealed that she moved in with my former friend as soon as she left. That was just a few months ago. A few days ago, she stopped by. She came by the house to pick up some things. I tried to avoid her, but she asked if she could talk to me for a moment. She then told me that she and my former friend are trying to have a baby together. She wanted to give me a heads up so we can handle it as we go through our divorce. She felt it was important to tell me herself. I think I deserve to know. It really hurt to hear how quickly she's moving on. We had plans to have kids together, but she wanted to wait until she turned 30. Now he's going to be the one to father her children, and I have to witness it. I'm here seeking any advice you can give me. I don't know how to cope with her getting pregnant. I feel like it'll be a constant source of pain once it happens. I'm also jealous of him because he's living the life I wanted with her. I know that her pregnancy means it's really the end for us. There won't be any chance of reconciling after that. I thought about suggesting counseling, but I doubt she'd be interested. I'm interested since she's set on being with him. I also don't know how to process all of this. I can't get my head around how they both did this or how I didn't see it coming. I don't understand why she left when we seemed happy. It's making me question everything. If you can't trust your wife and best friend, then who can you trust? It's so frustrating when a marriage you've worked hard on doesn't last. It feels like nothing is real and life is just a big lie. Life can be so unfair sometimes. The past few days have been surprisingly better for me since my wife left. I'm starting to think about what the future holds. I don't have much of an update, but I wanted to keep you informed. I thought I'd give you all a quick update on a few things. I've decided to reach out to my former friend's ex to find out what happened with the breakup. I might find out something useful, or maybe not, but I feel like I should try. I've already spoken to one attorney, but I need to get serious about finding a good lawyer next week. I'll start searching more. I'm really grateful that my friends and family have given me some great recommendations to consider. I don't know exactly when, but I'm pretty sure I'll start counseling soon. My mental state is not in a good place right now, and I know I need professional help to get through this. I'm thinking about writing to my wife and ex. Some of you asked why I didn't confront my friend when I found out about their affair. It bothered me because I realized I never told them how much it hurt and how I think they should know, even if they don't care. Many of you gave suggestions on how to cope with the situation. I'm going to make some changes around the house to create a more comfortable environment until I can move out. I'll also keep myself busy, but the hardest part so far has been the nights when I'm alone and everything gets quiet, like right now. Many of you suggested that I should contact my ex. My friend's ex. I wanted to check with my girlfriend, who I'll call EF, to see if she knew anything about his affair with my wife. I did ask her, but she confirmed that EF's story about why they broke up was true. I also asked if she'd noticed anything strange or had any suspicions that he was involved with another woman before they split up. She said she had no reason to think that. I believe her because she seemed genuinely shocked that they ended up together. I don't think she'd have any reason to lie to me. Has there been any reason for her to lie to me? In my previous post, I mentioned writing a letter to my ex-girlfriend and wife for closure. Many of you advised against it, and I decided to follow that advice. I wrote the letter for myself, but I didn't send it. I think you were right that they wouldn't care anyway, so there was no point in sending it a few weeks ago. I finally chose an attorney to represent me. He was recommended to me, and I trusted him to protect my interests and ensure fairness. The divorce was finalized last week. It was a tough day, but I knew it was necessary. I still have a part of me that dreams about her coming back and admitting her mistake, but I know that's not realistic. I can't base my life on a fantasy that will never come true. I felt a bit better leading up to the divorce, but the actual filing took away that boost. I've been feeling more depressed again. I considered personal counseling. As you guys suggested, I decided it's not the best time for it. Luckily, I started a new project at work, and with the changes I've made in my life, I've been keeping busy, which helps. It might sound crazy, but there's a part of me that doesn't really want to feel better. I feel like this sadness is natural when a marriage is ending. Regarding the alienation of affection suit, I decided not to pursue it even though many of you wanted me to. My attorney explained it wouldn't be easy and there are no guarantees. Besides, I don't care about the money. Even if I won, it wouldn't change anything. My main goal now is to wrap this up as soon as possible so I can move away and start over. The only other interesting thing is that after my wife got her papers, she contacted me asking to meet and talk. I haven't responded and I'm not sure if I will. I don't think there's anything left for us to say to each other. She told me all about what she'd been up to. She's been running, doing some reading, trying out yoga and meditation. Yoga was cool, but meditation wasn't really her thing. Work has kept her busy, which is a good distraction. She considered learning French, but for now, she'll put that on hold as she has other hobby projects going on. She picked up fishing again too. She's just trying to stay occupied so she doesn't have too much alone time. With my mind has been on changes around the house. I got rid of lots of trinkets that reminded me of my wife. I got a body pillow for my bed, which helped me relax more than I thought it would. I'm still in the guest room, but I might move back to the master bedroom soon. It doesn't make much difference at this point though, as I'm still having trouble sleeping. I've been reading more about failed relationships and got some good advice from recommended sources. I came across a YouTube video with some interesting advice. The guy said that if someone moves on quickly after a breakup, it's probably because they weren't the right person for you. It made me think about my wife in a different way. I used to think she was the one, but maybe she wasn't. If she could do all this, maybe she wasn't right for me. The guy also had some great insights about memories and accepting when someone you cared about becomes just a memory. That's all for now. It's not the happiest or most eventful update, but it's life.